Hi, welcome to Recruiter Fuel. My name is David Budaszewski, videographer here at Qualigence, and I'm here with Jenna to talk about something that I feel myself as a one-man band, how to do more with less. Because I feel like there's a lot of HR and other departments out there who are sort of, kind of on an island by themselves when it comes to having to be the recruiter and having to be the talent acquisition and do all the interviews and all that stuff and put the job postings out. What are some ways to possibly, help yourself out in that realm?
I think it's about keeping relationships active, making sure the information that you are sourcing is accurate, precise, maintaining time management and a schedule to ensure that you're not only letting individuals, you don't want to let anyone down in terms of scheduling. Everyone's time is valuable, so it's important to keep sharp on those types of things, especially when you are interviewing someone, and also like from a client perspective, like time is money, money is time.
So is that just being organized? Is it having a system in place? What does that kind of look like?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, being organized for sure. Keeping yourself accountable.
Yeah, I think that's a big one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Making sure you have your own sort of internal goals that you want to hit, and making sure you're hitting them, and sort of having that sort of top-down view of where you're at and where you expect to be, kind of thing.
Absolutely. If you feel that you're not making said progress, then maybe you should create some goals. Goals that you feel that you could potentially accomplish for the week, for the day, for the month, etc., to ensure that success.
Are there any sort of tools that maybe you lean on as a recruiter yourself to sort of help lighten the load a little bit while you're, doing all the different hats that you wear?
I am used to like my day-to-day tasks and stuff like that, but I think it's really important to keep your calendar up to snuff. Um, can I name things that we use?
Yeah, you can name, yeah. This whole thing is just to, give recruiters sort of an idea of, what other people are doing and how to be better themselves.
For sure.
We're not trying to hide anything from anybody, so.
Absolutely. Transparency also
Exactly, yep.
is key. So, we use tools such as like Hirees to organize like bulk from a candidate perspective.
Is that just like what is Hirees?
So in my mind, I categorize it as like a sister to LinkedIn in a way. It kind of, it's a platform that shows off various like resumes, profiles, things like that, where you could also find on LinkedIn when you are sourcing, but it's different in regards of like pulling contact information. You could do outreach from that one database as well. It's all encompassed.
Really? So it's like an aggregator of sorts.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is that like automatically done? Do people like buy into it, or
I think it's based on like subscriptions and stuff like that.
Okay.
But from a price point, I think it made more sense for us to use it. Things go up, but I think it, I don't know, it was more valuable to us for things that we do. Because you can source bulk and upload bulk to our ATS system. Whereas with like other engines like LinkedIn, you can't.
Yeah.
It's like very manual. So I could source potentially, as many as I want, hundreds of profiles and upload them all at the same time onto our ATS or outreach. Same way. We do use Loxa, which is good because you can categorize the different stages of folks that you are interacting with: outreach, contacting, interviewing, or even rejecting. So
yeah,
it helps to have those various buckets, because if you don't, then it's all just in one cluster and you're just basically juggling the notes that you may or may not have.
It's like the thing you said at the very beginning is staying organized.
Yes.
It seems like a lot of these tools are just going to sort of help you with that organizational standpoint, which I think is where it really boils down to when you're, from a recruiting perspective. It's just a lot of contacting people and making sure where you are in the process of whether or not you have to do the first outreach or you're doing your second for. I thought callbacks in my head because I'm like in like the actor mode, like that callback. Yeah, you get callbacks.
I would say,
Yeah.
that's a good way to say it.
Your second rounds, all that stuff. Just sort of making sure like you know where you are. And I think any sort of like tool to make that easier for you is going to be, worth its weight in gold,
For
so to
sure.
speak.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Organization, I cannot stress that enough because you don't want individuals, potential like rock star candidates to get lost in the shuffle, the hustle and bustle of like the bulk, trimming the fat, if you will. It helps.
Well, it's one of the big things that comes up when you look at like recruiting hell type stuff, where it's like a lot of it's just getting falling through the cracks and like never hearing anything ever again.
Yeah.
Especially when someone calls you up and they're like super excited, like I got this position, and you didn't even put yourself out there. They called you, and then 6 months later you're crickets.
Yeah, crickets. They got you on the hook and they left you hanging.
Left you hanging. But it's funny because she was talking about organizational stuff, and that is little inside baseball here. We had our company meeting today, and it was one of the things she brought up was being organized and how we can affect change in that realm. So it's kind of funny. It seems
Full circle.
Full circle.
100%.
Is there any other sort of tools that you sort of lean towards when you're sourcing? Anything that sort of helps you on like making the call or?
Yeah. There are, I mean, obviously we all have Google, but when sourcing contact information, there's various extensions that we use, tools that we rely on more so than others. Like Lush has a good one, Contact Out, even Family Tree Now, like is really good for sourcing phone numbers. I don't want to necessarily say it's the GOAT. Because you have to confirm it, not everyone says their name on their voicemail, so
No,
when you
I don't. Nope.
When you are making contacts or turning these folks into the client, you have to make sure your contact information is valid. But it could be a jumping off point. I could get in touch with someone's spouse and they could eventually give me their spouse's mobile number. That's happened many times, even their father.
I haven't thought of that sort of direction. This is kind of when I wanted to bring this up because it's like these little tips and tricks. You sort of maybe not intuitive to when you're on the behind the eight ball, trying to like, all right, we got to hire somebody, and I'm just this one person. Having all these little things in your pocket ready to go, I think is important for people to kind of know. For
sure, especially yes, there's always like in-mail, LinkedIn message and stuff like that, but not everyone is responsive in that way. It could even be the opposite where that individual is completely weirded out that you have their mobile number. How did you get that? Also, why are you calling my spouse?
It's funny because I think there's like a generational sort of shift that happened with that. Like it was like weird and then it was not weird and now it's weird again. So it's...
Yeah, or don't contact me on my work email. Okay, sir. How else? Like, I don't have your personal contact information. Yeah, but anything to get a response, even if it's a little hostile. I mean, you obviously don't want that, but if they respond and they're annoyed, at least you got to know whether instead of it being like crickets, because you can just as easily reject that individual. They're not interested in anything, or they are.
And it gives you more information for your pipeline too. Sort of know where you kind of stand with all your candidates. I just sort of a bunch of ghosts just sort of sitting there like I don't know what I'm gonna do with these people.
Any answer is a good answer.
Yeah.
Rather than just not hearing a thing or never reaching them.
Yeah, that's it's funny you brought up getting messages on LinkedIn because like I mean nowadays like every time it seems like every time I jump on to LinkedIn, I get like an automated message from something.
Yes.
So I'm already like kind of wary about like, is this a real person or is this just a robot reaching out to me kind of thing?
And that's really important too when you're conducting outreach. You do not want it to sound automated. People do not respond well to that in most cases. Like you want to personalize it in some way. Or at least let them believe that you personalized it in some way,
Yeah, we have a little,
put a little zhuzh in there, a little pizzazz. Why not? Get creative.
Anything that you wish you would have known starting your recruitment thing now back then? So like if you when you started recruiting, was there anything you wish you would have known then that you sort of learned through the process?
I think everyone's approach is different. So knowing now that I can get creative with it and show my personality through my outreach has been really helpful for me. In the beginning, I had the assumption that it was this mundane task, that you were some robotic individual reaching out to these people and leaving voicemails over and over again, saying the same thing, but it does not need to be that way. Oftentimes, you need to mix it up to get a response. So it's nice to know that you can, I don't know, be yourself.
Yeah.
People react better to more authenticity than anything, I think. And that is a way to create relationships when you are being honest, forthright in yourself.
I think that's actually something that sort of pops up a lot of these conversations that I have here is the authentic part of it. And I think that's really important. The takeaway from that is just, you have the ability to be creative in this realm. And so like find out what works for you and sort of, make it your own and go with that. And I think doing that is going to make it a lot easier for you, especially if it's just yourself kind of doing things. Because then you sort of know where you stand with yourself. Because it's like, all right, I made up this process that works for me, and I'm happy with it, and I, got the candidates and stuff that I want. So
Absolutely. As simple as your subject line in your email, like get creative with that. It doesn't necessarily have to be like something simple.
yeah. Maybe keep it simple is not always the key. Maybe you want to complicate it a little bit.
Zhuzh it up a
Zhuzh it
bit.
up. Thank you for this conversation. This was wonderful.
Absolutely.
Fun having you on, and I hope to see you guys next time on Recruiter Fuel.
Thanks.
Hi, welcome to Recruiter Fuel. My name is David Budiszewski. I'm the videographer here at Qualligence International. And I'm here again with Jenna to talk about something that sort of came up a lot when I was looking at trends for 2025 as far as like recruiting goes. And it's this idea of proactive recruitment. The biggest thing in this is just making sure that you have a proper pipeline in place to hire somebody in the event that you do need to immediately hire somebody. So I kind of want to get your ideas on what that would kind of look like and how to sort of set that up for someone if they wanted to be more proactive with their recruiting pipeline starting up the new year.
Good question. I think a lot of it has to do with, obviously, like building relationships is a huge part of recruiting. When you're having conversations with individuals, it's important that you keep it open to more potential, more possibilities. A lot of passive candidates come through when you are sourcing and when you are interviewing. But always be open for networking, I would say. Like, it depends on the level that you're sourcing too, like more so, I don't know, it just depends on the industry too. You'll find that some folks are more interested in just networking rather than open to potential possibilities. So passive is super common. So keeping those folks warm is a term we like to use also. Letting them know that if you come across a position that kind of better suits their needs in the future, we can always tap you on the shoulder and kind of move through the process that way as well.
How does it kind of look, keeping somebody warm, even though there might not be an immediate need for them? How do you sort of juggle that balance of not, you don't want to string someone along. You don't want to like play with somebody's life,
Yeah.
like
100%. Yeah, it's, transparency for sure. If there are other individuals in the process, I think it's important to say something along the lines like, we are speaking to other individuals in that are farther along in the process. I don't know. I don't necessarily like to make promises to anyone because you never know what's going to happen. You could have someone at the offer and something wild happens and it falls through, and then you need someone to quickly pick back up. So it's important to keep quality individuals warm, not just any.
Yeah.
It's important to keep it, again, trim the fat. Don't just keep anyone warm. But I think transparency is big in that regard. You don't want to say, hey, there's two people that are about to get potential offers, but you do want to say, like, definitely don't put all your eggs in one basket. I don't want to stop you from interviewing for other positions. If it comes to that point, if it does feel like the process is taking longer than it should. But definitely transparency.
So you mentioned networking on the initial part there. What does it sort of look like in the recruiting space when you're networking with somebody that you might not be exactly hiring them, but they might have a pull somewhere to get somebody you're looking for?
So when you're reaching out to individuals, again, like more so passive candidates who are into more so networking, a lot of the times they want to tell you what they're looking for. Rather than you pitching said job, not necessarily pitching, but selling them on it, or you don't want to.
It's a weird because there's like
not selling either, because you don't want to just put butts in seats. It's you want to learn more about them, so you're wanting to learn whether the background fits. The position, the client, the culture, all of the things, and also would that fit, well in their lives as well, even if it's not necessarily for that specific role for them. So keynote taking is very important, but in a networking situation, you could always take whatever is said within the conversation. You learn their salary goals. You learn their pain points, their what's important to them, etc. And you leave it open for discussion in the future.
Yeah.
It's
something you said in there sort of struck a chord of the idea of personas. Right, because we use a lot of personas when we're going after candidates. We get an idea of what the ideal person is that you're looking for. And I think when you're talking about being proactive, having that persona for like each individual role that you could possibly be hiring for in your company could pay dividends in the end, because then you know exactly like what sort of person you're looking for right out the rip. So I think building those personas right out could be important.
Very important. That kind of makes me think about like the initial intake call with the client to understand their ideal profile. Because if you don't have a good understanding of that, you're not going to have a good understanding of the right person when you come across them, potentially. So it's important to know that your client's needs and also understand the candidate's needs as well. Because again, there is morality to this. We don't want to put any old butt in a seat. We want it to be a fit for both parties. You are messing with people's lives. So this is, it shouldn't be taken lightly.
Yeah. We've been having a discussion about emotional hiring in the marketing department here. And I think there's like a hierarchy of like things that are like more stressful in your life, whatever. And if I remember correctly, like starting a new job is like top 5, possibly top 3 amongst like, moving and like getting married. So like it affects you and it ripples throughout your life. So yeah, it's very important to, when you're getting those personas and you're making those databases, that you're taking into account the person behind all of that. It's not just a number in a database. There's an actual human being there.
And a lot of candidates like are in totally different situations. There could be an individual that's in between a job. There's a gap for some reason, or someone that, again, passive, not necessarily looking, and there could be someone who's actively looking. And many things can happen in between. So you obviously, like, you have to be cognizant of that as well.
Yeah. What is a good way to sort of keep, so you have this pipeline going, what's a good way to keep all this sort of organized? Where's a good space to sort of, keep that, keep those candidates warm, keep those personas ready to go? Like where's a kind of good place to sort of keep all that?
So I lean on Loxo a lot because there are different buckets that you can kind of drop individuals in, but there's also like spots for notes. I when I'm taking notes, I always put like in all caps passive right on the front, so or like could potentially want blank, like comp goals, anything that you can think of that would set off sparks for this individual potentially in this future. Their needs right up front. You don't necessarily have to go searching for it. And also checking in with folks like that, like the passive candidates. How are things going? Have you changed your mind? Referrals are big too. You can get that way, because if you're having a conversation with someone for networking purposes, or they're not necessarily sure what they want, they're in the middle somewhere. People are nice. Not everyone is, hoarding opportunities. A lot of times you can get pretty decent referrals. Someone who could potentially fill that perfect spot.
I think it's important to note that, I'm sure a lot of these services aren't just free to use.
Correct.
But, the idea of keeping that, fresh and ready to go without having to scramble when you're, somebody leaves or something happens and you have to make that hire. I think if you look at the cost per both sides of that, having something sort of going on in the background may not be the worst thing possible.
And I'm not opposed to an Excel doc. I love a simplistic Excel doc. Don't get me wrong. I think it's I don't know, your note-taking style, so you know how to potentially organize things in a way that is going to pop for you. Coding, not coding in like a techie way, but like color coding or caps, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah. Whatever you can do to stay organized and stay on top of stuff.
Yes. Hard copy, maybe a little bit difficult with that, but I don't know. I love an Excel doc, let me tell you.
This might be a little bit different for you because we're kind of a, have gun, will travel type situation where we go to where the need is, companies who need us to bring on somebody. But is there anything that you kind of do to be proactive in your situation so that, when you're brought in to say like, all right, we're taking on this client, here's what they need, and you go, I already have 50 people I can call right now because I've been on top of that?
So when I use Hirees, I label each job or endeavor that I'm working on by title, or specifically something that jumps out within the profile, so that I am able to search for like my past, log of candidates. And then job descriptions are huge to keep on file because things can change and be tweaked throughout. Even if it's a similar target, it may not necessarily apply in all cases. So you have to be conscious of that as well. Not everyone fits the same bracket.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you could have 2 A+ candidates, but they're on opposite sides of where they fit into the company culture, and you got to be aware of that.
You could have 50 people sourced previously, but if they don't have whatever certification, it could be potential garbage.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term.
Any final thoughts on this going into the new year and trying to get your proactive recruiting down pat for people?
Ooh, stay organized, people. Keep on your A game. I guess whatever keeps you accountable, find whatever it is that keeps you accountable and run with it. Whether it be an Excel doc, whether it be an alarm on your phone, or, something simple like that.
Accountability pays dividends.
Amen.
Jenna, thank you for being on. This is a wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
I'll see you guys later.
See ya.